Alright, it might be running, I'm not sure, so I'm just going to start talking. So, yeah, there we go. That's going to be well, maybe not a really quick one, but semi-quick. Not very long, maybe it's 30 or 40 minutes, we'll see. But, so, this is GeoWill, and we're back to kind of take a look at what I've done, where I'm at so far with this. And actually, we're pretty far now. So let me just kind of go over what I've been working on, and what I've changed, and some issues I found with the rAthena database editor tools. So after I stopped streaming the other day, my goal was to try and get it to go through and figure out why some of the things are happening that were happening, and to kind of debug it and figure out where the breakpoints, not literal breakpoints like this red circle breakpoint, but literal points where the program would break if I did a specific thing, and then try and determine if I wanted to fix that or not. So, the first thing I did was I decided, well, let's work on the MobDB side of it because it's a larger thing and more complicated, and once we go through and figure out all that, whatever is broken there is probably also going to be broken in the IMDb editor because it's the same basic code structure. I just basically copied over a lot of it from IMDb editor to the MobDB editor. And so I figured that we go through and fix all that, and then we could reflect back those changes to the IMDb editor. So my goal was to get the MobDB editor to do, I guess, 4 things. One of them is broken now. That wasn't before. We're going to figure out why it's broken now on the stream. But so the first thing was that when creating a new monster, a new mob, that we want to add that mob's entry to the custom mobs, or whatever. In my case, it's custom underscore mobs.sql file. Eventually, I'll figure out a way that we can actually use to figure out a way to set the to use the the whatever you said in the settings to do that for. But I have to figure out a way to determine that, or maybe have it so that the first file that you designate is going to be for items, and the second one's going to be for mobs. That might be the best way to do it. But so that it writes a entry in there for every new mob that you create, and so that it will be able to be loaded in again, without you having to go in and add that line to it to do so whenever you restart the app. 2, that it should produce an output in a file, a file in the generation files list or folder, based on the location that your custom mobs, if it's a custom mob, or the location that the mob is from, based on that name. So that means that, like, say, like you're creating a custom mob, so you in the drop down, you would select custom mob, whatever your custom mob file name is. Then you would with that setting there, what it would do then is it would take the option that you set in the settings for the custom mob location and reflect that value back to the file name when it's writing out that line of code, or that line of SQL or flat file, to allow you to add it to that file. So how this works is that you create a new mob or make an edit. The code in this app will then take the stuff you changed and format it into an output statement. The output statement then you copy it into your flat file database file for whatever, your MobDB RE file or MobDB file. Or if you're using the SQL, you take that output statement and you run it in the SQL browser to either update the values for that particular record, or you insert the new mob record into the MobDB RE or MobDB 2RE, whatever you're using for your custom mobs. And so those files is where they get written to. And when you select a custom mob, or when you're creating or editing a custom mob, there's not going to be a custom mob table or a custom mob flat file. It's whatever database file you're storing the custom mobs in, that will be read into the rAthena server, or from the database to the rAthena server. So it has to go to one of the either ItemDB2 item db2, item db1, or underscore re for those, or the mobdb2 slash underscore re for those for the mobs. So I had to. One of the things was to figure out a way to do that, to make it so that you could, have it be a custom mob loaded in from a custom mob file, written back to that file if it's a new one, but still have it be output, the file, the generation output be for a valid table that the rAthena server will recognize. So that's the second thing. The third thing was that it should be able to both produce a insert statement for new items or mobs, or update statements for existing items and mobs that have been updated, and put them into the right tables. Set table or the insert into table, the table name be the correct table. And fourth was to have it be able to output multiple generation statements, whether they're insert or update. So whatever you go in and change at that particular time when running the application, any of the changes, any of the new lines that should be output from those changes or in creations of things should be done. So we've gotten 2, 3, and 4 done. Like I said, 1 used to work. Now it doesn't work for some reason. We're going to be figuring out why, but the other ones work. And to kind of give you an example or show you how it works, or that it does work, rather. So this is I've already done some changes before streaming to test it. And so how this works now is that since we're not resetting the data handler instance for the app when we are coming out of the DBs, as long as you don't close the app, anytime you go back into the NDB or MobDB, any changes you made or any new things you added will still be there and still be registered as that particular thing. Now, there was a question of taking a new item and then updating that new item at the same time. So like if you create it and realize that you created something incorrectly and you go back and you want to change something on that, what happens to it? Because technically it's still a new item or new mob because it's not in the database anywhere. But the application will treat it as if it's an update, and so it'll print an update statement. So I need to figure out how that's going to work, but for now that's more in the future when I go to release this to the public. When I'm using it, I'll just remember I shouldn't do that. So I've already edited an item. What did I edit? I think I edited Red Potion or something, to change a couple of the values, and then I added a new custom item called something Zenny ticket, large Zenny ticket, or something like that. Just something to create something new for it. And then in the mob side, I modified Pouring, Hornet, and Isis to have to drop black market coins. Just to kind of give a real world example of changes that someone might make, or changes that I will make. And I also added another custom monster called Tesseract that's just designed to test the output functionality. So I've already done those, and we're back out here. So now all I need to do is go to File, then Generate Files, and Files for SQLDB. We'll go ahead and take that out. There should be another break somewhere. I guess not. So now we'll look at this file. So this is for the mobdbre. And so now we have our updates. So we have the drop ID 7 has been changed to 60,001 rather, and the drop percentage 2,500 for pouring, 6,001 and 2,000 for Hornet, and for Isis we are adding a gold coin drop to her for 750, and then underneath that you can see our insert statements. So we're using a pouring sprite and then the values for that. Now if we go over here to the item, we have our update item on 512. I'm not sure what item that is. Let's see. Load item. Let's see. 512 is... Oh, Apple. Okay, so we changed Apple. That's what we changed. So we changed the buy price to 20, the weight to 10, the equip jobs to... well, we didn't actually change the equip jobs. That's interesting. And then the script we changed. That might be from an issue that I identified that I didn't fix over in the items. So to get to this point, there was a lot of hair pulling because there was a lot of like minute issues that you wouldn't find without like nailing your hand to a table and sitting here for 20-30 minutes, just typing in random crap and seeing what came out and checking what came out to see if it was correct and changing things from existing stuff to see if what came out was correct. And after doing that, I found that there were a couple of problems with the way that the stuff was working. So first and foremost, it was on the mobs, but also over here probably too by the looks of that output. One thing that was happening was that if you remember when we were testing it, when I would choose a mob class preset and then choose it again, it would change the output. That's because we were doing stupid stuff with the mob behavioral value. So if we go over to that, I will show you. So if you remember, we were setting, doing a bunch of stuff here. We were setting the mask val to the mob behavioral value, and then taking that and doing stuff. So what was happening is that we were taking the mask value, we were adding it to the behavioral mask, and then we were calling the set behavioral boxes based on the max val, and then we were re-adding the max val to the behavioral mask val. So we were like adding the mask stuff that we added twice, and that's why stuff was getting all messed up. And so there's also some other problems in terms of like, well, what if this is a 0 or a -1? What do we do then? Well, it should be a 0. But then when I had that happening, we were just resetting it and wiping everything out, including what was there for the presets. So instead, what I decided to do was, okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to assume that none of this stuff will change the behavior of mask val. The only thing that will change that will be the one that actually changes the state of the checkboxes. This one, the on mob behave box check changed. It's the only thing that will change the value for behavioral mob in relation to something changing for the behavioral presets or the checkboxes. In terms of that, instead, and actually in terms of everything really, because we'll get to that in a second. So what I did was I decided, okay, well, we know that we know what the mask value for this is, and generally the class preset mask values are not going to contain things that are in the behavior presets, though sometimes they might. So the question is, well, how do we deal with that then? Because if there is a behavioral preset option in a boss class preset option, and we set the class preset to nothing, I changed those from blank to none, so it was a little bit easier to understand what those were for. So we changed it to none, it's going to wipe that out. So how do we deal with that? Well, what I came up with was, well, we'll just call the on change behavior, or whatever the on behavior preset changed from inside the code, and pass through a null, because we don't really care what the object, we don't really care about this stuff here. This is just stuff that's generated by C# automatically. We're not using these in here at all. We're just, because we're operating on that drop down as if it's the only drop down that's going to access it, because it is. So we're not doing any processing on the sender or the events. So because of that, we can just send those as null, and we can call it from the code like I did here. And then what happens is we call that, and then so we set the mask val to this. Then we call on behavior preset changed, just to make sure that the behavior mask is still applied. And then we set behavior masks to the mask val from the class presets. Now, similarly down here, what we're doing is we're setting the mask val to 0, and then we're calling behavior preset changed. And so what will happen is that this will wipe out all the class-related stuff, which is what this also does. And then it will not apply the class mask because there is none. It's 0. Now, there's another problem, a couple problems on the clearing of data. So the first one that I found was related to that. It was that I was setting the behavior value to 0 here, up here above this, and in doing so, when this ran, it produced an erroneous value. It gave it like a 4 million something value. And so what was happening was I noticed Whenever I would update a monster, then load another monster and update that monster, the ones after the first monster that I updated would have listed a change to the mode, which is what this is representing. And that's not correct because I didn't change it. So I was thinking, well, why? And I was looking through that up there again, and it's like, well, this is what it's supposed to be doing. It worked for pouring. Well, what happened after the pouring was saved? Well, we loaded a new mob, so I said, okay, let's check this stuff down here. I saw it was setting to 0, so I put a breakpoint here and checked the value, and sure enough, it was not 0, it was some 4,000 number or 4 million number. So I took that out, and that fixed that, and then I realized that this should be true, because if you are going to create a new mob after you update a mob, and this becomes false in that case, if you don't set it back to true, the next mob you try to create will be listed as an update monster, and it won't even do anything with the data. It'll just basically say, oh, we updated this monster, and then it won't update it because there's no check in the code to send back a false if there's no monster found with that ID, which there should be. But for now, that's a quick fix for that, and really this is how it should be. It's just that, yes, I guess we probably didn't even need that fixed because checking the ID, because if this gets set to true, that's not going to happen. There's no way to change this from inside of the application. It only changes in the code based on conditional branching. So the other thing that I changed was I set all the text boxes for the item IDs, for the item ID drop-down lists, to be searchable. So you can actually go in there now, and I'll show you what I mean by that. And it I will not say that I should have done this sooner, because it made my life a hell of a lot easier in testing. So when I was trying to test the monsters, I'd have to go in the drop-down list, scroll all the way down to the bottom where my crap is, and try and find the bronze black market coin every time. Oh, I'll get to that in a second. Instead of doing that, I was like, you know what, we should be able to type in this thing and find it. And so that's what I did. So what I'm going to be doing now is every time we have a drop down like that, I'm going to be, well, first we're going to invert I changed the data for it too a bit. But we're going to invert, I'm going to invert the ID and the name, so you can actually search the name instead of the ID. But like, say I want to add the black market coin, that's in the 60,000 range. So I just type in 60, and if I just go a few more zeros, we start weeding out all the ones before that. So we have 6,000, so we have 6,000 Ashes of Darkness, and then everything that matches this but has another value, which is all my 6,000 stuff. So I can just choose black market coin and set the thing and go, as opposed to doing this. Before, I was literally like coming down here and saying, okay, there's the eggs, now I gotta find the black market coin that I want. So bronze black market coin, there we go. So it's much faster. And I also changed how the data in here is being displayed. Before, I was using the English name, which ironically enough is not the name that's the plain text name. I changed it to the JPN name because that way it's more, it's an actual literal value you can look at. But yeah, so once we change the name and the ID position, you'll be able to type in the name and search based on that, which will be something we'll do here. And then also, one thing I also added was to indicate when stuff was going on. So like before, whenever we were loading something in, it would just be you'd just sit there, the arrow would be there, you'd be like, is it done yet? Is it done yet? So I decided to change the cursor type to the wait cursor while it's loading. So while it's loading data, we are, the thing will sit there and spin. And then once it pops up the message, it goes away. Similarly, when we click on this, it does the same thing. It'll keep spinning until the form loads, and then it will go to the normal cursor. This is just to indicate that there's stuff going on, so you're not sitting there wondering if it's hung or if there's a bug or something. Again, something I think was really needed, because you don't really know what's happening right now. You're just sitting there waiting for something to happen. You're like, well, I just clicked on this and it's not doing anything. So sometimes maybe it happens that way because there's a bug and you don't know about it, because maybe you have the logging turned on, but the in-app error is turned off, and for some reason the error that I created for maybe something happening that would cause this not to load isn't being displayed to you, or there isn't a message being displayed that's saying there's a problem, and so you don't think to check the logs, and nothing happens, and you're wondering, well, is it broken or not? So that's why I put those in. Also, mob location, there was a problem with that loading up properly. It had to do with the function we were using to set the selected index. Because what was happening is I tried to model it off of the other ones that exist. Let's see if we can find them. We're on the wrong thing. I know we're on the right thing. Right thing, wrong place. Or are we? Oh, here we go, yeah. So on these ones, we are looking to see if the value is equal to the target value, and then we're setting the selected index. And that's fine, that works for that. We were doing the same thing down here on a not equals condition. Now, what's interesting about a not equals condition is that, okay, if it doesn't equal, then we're setting to -1. But what happens since we're already setting this here, what happens if this is equals equals? Doesn't set anything. Then it was continuing. And then the next one didn't equal it, so it's setting back to -1. So the combo boxes for the item location and mob location were never being set. That's because whenever we find a match, so whenever this is a opposite, statement conditional match. So in other words, when these are true, we have to break, because if we don't break, then it gets set back to -1 on the next loop. And again, it's just a stupid thing that I should have realized at the time. But so fix that. What else did we fix? What else did I fix on this? I finally got fed up with the frigging not checking the on save click data for problems like parse issues. So I created a new method to do that, and then a new bool to check if there was a data input issue, if there was, to print out a statement that there was a problem, and then not delete the data and not cause the program to crash and have you have to go back in and enter in all the data again for monsters, of which there's 57 fields. Yeah, I got totally pissed off with that whole process, and I decided, screw this, we're going to do this, because I was missing things by accident and not realizing it and having to redo things 5 or 6 times. So we now have that there, and that's all good and awesome. I'll need to, we'll be adding that to the item database editor as well right now. So we got a couple of things we need to check. First, we're going to check out why the appending of the source files is not working anymore. We're going to check. We're going to add in this stuff to the ItemDB editor side. We're going to check why the ItemDB editor is changing the job val when it shouldn't be. The equip job val when it shouldn't be. We're going to be changing the text boxes to have the name first, and other checkboxes other drop downs that don't have that set yet. We're going to set that for, and then I think that was it. I think it was those 4 things we're going to do right now. And once those 4 things are done, this will be at a legitimate version 1, a working usable version 1. So what we need to do first is go to ItemDB editor. So I think it's the onload thing again. Maybe. Let's go to the DB editor and check out. Or not onload, but the clear. For the are we changing? No, we're not changing it. We're not setting it to 0, in other words. So that's fine there, but we're still changing it somehow. It might be having to do with the onloading, changing it when we shouldn't be changing it. Adding values to it when we shouldn't be, in other words. So let's check. So job equip value, job equip upper value being set to 0, which is fine, because we have to set them to something. Then we're initializing those, building the lists, the old dictionaries. And then we are setting the sources for the data for those. Drop downs there. Okay, and onload. So if item is not null, item new is false. for uint mask get masks temp item iequip jobs. If jobs mask ck boxes contains the key, then we're checking it. We're checking that particular checkbox to true, and then we are doing the same thing with this. And when we do that, what's going on? We are calling the on whatever changed thing down here on job val index. Now build class on exit on equipment job box checked. So we are looping through the job mask CK boxes. We are checking to see if the sender equals the box we're currently looking at. If it does and it's checked, we are if the new state is checked, we are checking or adding the key to job equip val. If it's not checked, then we're subtracting it. So when we're loading something in, so when we're loading it in, if it's checked, we're adding it. If it's not checked, we're subtracting it. But what if it's not a part? Okay, so we're only going through if it's checked, and it's because when we come back up here, we're only sending in the boxes which have a resulting mask that is equal to a mask in the in this from get masks. So anything that's not part of get masks, the get masks list that comes back is not getting called, so that's fine. So that works. So anything, it's only going to send through things that should be checked, and it's going to check them. So only those will get down here. So we're adding this to 0. That's fine. Now on saving. So end key, don't need that. So refinable script. So we go. So job equip val, job equip upper val. We're setting those to I equip jobs and I equip upper. So fairly standard. So maybe there's a problem in the mapping between the job values here and what's in the list, maybe? So, what's one that changed? I don't want that, I want the item one. Wait, where did that go? Okay, we closed it, right. Let's just go and open it. Custom items. Well, it wouldn't be custom items. Gen files, custom items, SQL. I'm gonna load as the item DB RE. There we go. Mega's any ticket, that was what it was. So it was Apple, right? So for some reason, it said equip jobs got changed to this value from what it was originally, and the value it is originally is, if we can find it in our data. So this is the SQL files. All right. So we want to open the item DB RE, and Apple is 429496729.5, and it got changed to 2939. So 29, it should be 2994 So it got changed to 4293 967 910 295. So what? Let's see what was subtracted from this, and we'll see what's going on. because maybe this is including the two unused bit masks that are in this list. Because there's two unused bit masks that are in here that we don't have in our list that we're not including. And that could be where that's from. Which means that this is perfectly normal. Because when they created the data, they put in bit masks that weren't even being used when they shouldn't have. Which means that, again, when they created the data, they screwed up. Which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there's a lot of problems with this data besides that. You shouldn't have nulls and all these things. They should be zeros. They're relying on the fact that the server, when it brings it in, turns it into a zero if it's a null. But if somebody else has an application that they're using to pull this data into, and they don't do that, the data is pretty much screwed. Which is why we have 7,000 lines of warning errors flooding out of the freaking thing every time we load the data. So we want to take this. No, we want to take the larger value because we're subtracting. We could do it the other way. It's just it would be a negative value. It would still be the correct value, though. We don't want to do decimal for sure, or hex for sure. Minus what we're getting out of here. And that equals that. And what is that in hex? That's 10,000. 102,000. So, unused 1 is 81, and unused 2 is what? So 10,000, yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, yeah. 102,000, yeah, it's exactly what it is. So it's these unused bit masks that are in there. So that's fine. I mean, this should be the maximum value you have in the database. I don't know why they're using those bit masks that are not used. If they're not used, they shouldn't be in there. But again, they didn't create this data set logically. So that's fine then. This is perfectly fine. Everything else that we changed is in here as being changed, and the formatting is correct. So yeah, that works perfectly. All right, so we don't have to worry about that. Next, the other part of this, which is the appending, is not working now. We need to figure out why. So that's done in data handler. So when we create a new item or a mob, it's supposed to call append source file. We will put some breakpoints here, and then we'll put some breakpoints down here in the append. I wonder if I think it might be related to this. The problem with why the files weren't writing from the generation, that was another problem I forgot about that I fixed, was that when we're somewhere in here, I don't know if it's in the settings or if it just does it automatically or if we did it in here somewhere in the code. At the end of the file path, we're getting a double slash escape to put a slash there. Well, in the generation function, I was adding another 2 slashes, and so it was basically saying that there was an invisible folder or something in between the file and the generation folder, and so it wasn't writing anything. I think something similar might be happening here, but in reverse. There should be a double slash here, but we're not actually adding the double slash, and so we're not getting it valid. It's basically saying the file name is the source folder path file name.sql, so we're getting like a C:/users gol // /desktop/gro resurrection /tools / the name of the folder for this tool / SQL files.sql. Or, well, you know what I mean. Not the slash between the SQL folder and the file name. So it's SQL file name.sql. SQL's file name.sql instead of SQL slash. So I think we need to put a slash here, but we'll see. I think that might be what's going on. Let's go ahead and load this. It'll be the same for either or because they're both calling the same method here, so same function. So no matter which one we try, it's easier to create items than monsters because there's less stuff you have to put in to create an item than a monster. So ID 80,000 one type. We'll just put in some random data here. Oh, I did also put in some new. It's interesting on the mob side. There aren't really any serious constraints. There's no constraints that really are happening in the database. So like you can create an MVP monster that has no MVP, EXP, or MVP drops. Except for, well, the only thing that's really in there is if the ID is the same or if it's null or something. That's the only thing that's in there. For the items, on the other hand, there's a bunch more, and I went through and changed all the constraining I was doing to use the same constraints, or at least most of the same constraints that are in the item server code for the map server, or IMDb code for the map server. So like if I change the buy price to be 0 and the sell price to be high, a warning will be spit out into the warning logging file that states that the buy price is lower than the sell price. Again, so that's mimicking what the thing does, the map server does, so you kind of can catch it here instead of there. But there are some things that we can't do in the app that are done in the map server for the constraint checking, so there's still some things that could happen that you'd have to fix. Make sure you put some stuff in here. Select a couple of these, select this, etc. So we don't need that. Technically, we don't even need an equipped gender for etc. because they're not. Well, yeah, you do for using it. Well, that's for usables, not. Well, let's see, etc. No, you probably don't need an equipped gender for etc. I'm not even going to put a equipped thing on there for that, and it's going to be a custom item. And then we're going to save it. All right, so yay, we found something that was not right. The equip level. Great. Again, we need to do the whole thing so this doesn't happen. So when it happens, it crashes the program and you have to start over again. Now imagine doing that while trying to create a monster to test things out with, where you have to enter in all this data for all these fields. Yeah, I got very, very mad for a while. After a while. To the point that my procrastination no longer mattered, so I decided to actually do it. That takes a lot for me to stop procrastinating for something like that. All right, let's try this again. So 80,000. Yeah, I'm contemplating about adding in some other settings to add in things that you might have changed, like if you're a little more savvy with changing things on the server on the server code base. Like if you change the max item ID number, for example, I'm thinking of putting in a setting that allows you to change that so that you can have that be reflected here. Otherwise, it'll have the value that's in the map server, so that if you try and create an item that's higher than the max item ID in the map server, it won't let you do it, so that you don't run into that issue with this tool. Again, the idea of this tool is to make it so that you can create stuff for an rAthena server, and also though have the ability to have it be a little more accurate than, say, some of the other tools out there, based on stuff like that the map server will tell you that's wrong with it, or things like, if the item is too low, if your item ID is too high for the max item setting, you'll know it, instead of creating a bunch of stuff and trying to put it in and realizing that all the IDs are too high, and then you have to either change the IDs or change that setting value. So it's just, it's going to be a little bit more comprehensive than some of the stuff that's out there, and working for that matter. So again, dummy data for this, 1, type to etc. 1, 0, 0, whoops. Thought I put a 0 for equip level. That was weird. Maybe I missed that field. I'm also going to put one of those things here for this, because this takes a while for some reason. I think it's because it has to loop through all the crap to get to here. So we have our item local, that's fine. Pen source file. Now we're coming down here. So the file name, so folder path, no, SQL files, that's right. File name, which is custom items. So let's just put one here, continue. So the file path is now correct. So tools, rAthena item, and mob database editor, SQL files, custom items, SQL. The data is this, and let's go ahead and continue. Successfully created. Now if we check our generation file, we should have something in here. Not generation, our source file. There should be a change in here, but I'm not sure if it's doing it anymore. So well, maybe it did. It says 159. It wasn't working earlier, but now maybe it is. Nope, it adds a blank line here. Yeah, that's what happened before. It was a blank line. Didn't put any data into it. That's exactly what was happening. No. So, we need to figure out why. What is this? Show threads and source. Interesting. And because the data seems to be there. I mean, it's, you know, it's this again. So why is that not working? Items. Custom underscore items, which is the right name. Save. So it's loading all that stuff in, checking all and trying to see errors. The errors creating a new item. Really? What happened? So, had some warnings. We had an error apparently. I was gonna see. Oh, really? Seriously? A is already used. That doesn't make sense. There's no A in there. Oh, here it is. No, they are here. Never mind. We're not. Okay. Duh. They are here. Never mind. It is doing them. They're just not getting put on a new line. That's what's happening. Wow. Okay. So that's the that's the problem. We are not putting them onto a new line. Yikes. Okay. So we'll just add a plus RN here. It's the fastest way to fix that. Alright, so that solves it for both of them. That's good. Now we need to go to the item editor and do the same stuff we did for mob over here. Actually, I just want to go over to the mob editor and grab that function that I created. Where are you? Parse int val. DB editor, not design. We want this code. I'm actually going to put underneath the loading so we know where it is. Or no, underneath the saving, not loading. Okay, then we need to put in a new. So we need to put this in to here. And then we need to add to that the last bit of it. Okay, that reformats it there. And then we need to add this to the bools up here. Okay, now for every int32 parse, we need to call this function, this parse ival function. So it's pretty simple to fix this. All we have to do is just do find replace. So int32.parse replace with parse ival. And just like that, presto changeo, we now are protected from those stupid annoying issues. Now, that we have that. We should look at the drop downs. So first of all, we'll need to. Well, first of all, we need to change how the data is being loaded. So we need to go to the code for this and other things. It should be open. Mob selects yes. Actually, it'll be in dhandler. It's the dhandler function. Get mob list, get item list. So what we'll do is we'll just flip these around. So instead of the ID being first, it'll be the English name. And then we can use the name to filter off of instead of the ID, which will make it a little bit easier, because if you know what the name of the item is, you may not know what the ID of it is, and you might have to go look it up or guess. So it's better to look up the name. That's something that I think the name is something that's going to be more easily recognized than the ID is. So get item list as a dictionary. Yeah, so again, this is for the monster drop downs. I'm just going to put a space here. A little bit better on the formatting, I think, if we put a space there. Alright, and that's all we have to do with those. Now we'll have to go to the various editors here, and we'll need to change a few things. So first thing we need to change is we need to say autocomplete mode is suggest. And then for the autocomplete source, you want to say list items. And that's all you have to do. Now you can use the typing to filter out options and figure out which ones you want to use. So we'll go back over to Mob, Azure, Design, which I already have selected, and actually we don't have to change anything with that. Item select, we need to do the same thing here. So complete mode is suggest, and autocomplete source is the list items. Alright, so now when we start it, we should be able to use the item names now instead of the other stuff. And I think those are the 4 things we've fixed now. So the job ID thing wasn't an issue. We went through and we parsed, safe parsed, we'll call it, the item input data. We checked out why the append wasn't working for the new items to the item and mob data source files, and then we also then changed the reversed the way the data was showing in the drop downs, and then set all the rest of the drop downs to be able to be filtered based on text that's inserted into them. So I think those are the 4 things I mentioned, and that's what we've done. So let's go check it out and see if this is working in here. The other thing I considered was playing Jeopardy music while this was loading to tell you that it was loading, but I figured not, because it might get into copyright issues. Like actually loading in the thing to play in the actual application, not just on the video. So let's search for black market, bronze black market coin. Cool, there we go. All the bronze stuff that comes up, and there's the black market coin. Awesome. So let's say that you want to give it, let's say it's some weird item like card box or something. You don't know what the ID for it is. Well, apparently I don't either. Isn't card box? Maybe it's called blue box. No. Well, there's blue book and bow. What is that called? Of course, it doesn't do it's not filtering based on all the entire string. It's just the first characters. Each character is. So if you're looking for a particular card and you just type in card, you're only going to get these. You have to type in like pouring or something because that's going to be at the beginning of the card name. So that's a drawback of this, but there's probably a way to make it work as more of a complete string searching as opposed to character searching. What is that called? Damn. I don't even know. So if you don't know what the item is called, then you're pretty much screwed. Then you have to go look it up. So I don't want that. That's the generation. I want to look at the... here. I want to find out. So, box. Old blue box. That's what it is. Old blue box. I believe this is the one that gives you cards. So let's say which one I have it. So old blue box. And there it is. You actually have two of them. Old blue box 1 and 2. So that works. Let's check the load mob. So let's say we want to have ISIS. Yep, there we go. Both ISISes. How about Amon-Ra? Oh wow, Amon-Ra has a bunch of entries in here. How about Marin? Again, a bunch of Marins too. So that's also very useful. Oh, right. On loading. So there's another issue here, which is on loading. If you're loading something and there's nothing for this over here for it, whatever you have over here, had over here originally stays. So that's another issue I'll have to fix, but that's not a very large problem. Let's go and exit. I just want to make sure the item DB stuff is working as well. So load item. And we'll see red potion. It's got a bunch of reds. So red pepper pencil, red PhD hat. Say so there's a whole bunch of there's my custom items there. So it's a very easy way to go through and like search for things and find them a lot easier. Oh, that was interesting. When we returned a null, it filled in a bunch of stuff. That is weird. I didn't think that. Huh. That is very interesting. Or no, wait. Maybe that was that the. Let's see. No, yeah, I'd selected this and then I hit the X button. That's what happened. And then it filled in a bunch of random crap. Oh well. Still, it's working and it's doing what I want it to do. So I will consider this a working version 1 for now. Definitely not ready to be released yet. There's still some options to get shoved in there, and we need to do some more work on usability and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's at a state that I can use it, which is what I wanted to achieve for right now. So that's literally what the stream is going to be. So thanks for watching. If you watched it live, if you're watching on YouTube afterwards, comments, questions, leave them below. And if you haven't done so already, appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. And again, it's going to be probably a week, maybe a week and a couple days before I do any more streaming, because I won't be the place that I'm going to be at watching doesn't have very good internet connection. well, maybe good enough for streaming, but not good enough for um, the level of streaming that I've been doing in terms of like the quality settings, and also because I won't have a computer capable of doing any streaming anyway. So um, that's that. But when I do get back, we'll do some streaming for rest here, and I will probably also do some streaming for the GRO because what I'm planning to do is what I wanted to get this tool done was because while I'm over there, I'm going to try and get all the stuff changes that were done redone. So for example, let's see. Oh yay. I have to let it run now. Okay, wiki. So I can't mute it from clicking on it. I'll mute it down there. The reason this is a good thing that I made this for reference to players is because now I can use this because I have no freaking clue what all the stuff was changed was. Because I had changes to the official monsters for things. Like, for example, here you go. This is like stuff that I changed. So, Ammut had Devil Scroll added to it. Alarm had Silver Coin. Stuff that I added to official monsters for the custom stuff that I had been working with and creating. So this is good because I can use this to reference to when I'm going to go back through while I'm down there and add all this stuff back in. So we have all this stuff here. There is a lot more that I never actually finished that I changed, so I have no clue what I changed on these guys. Most likely it was black market coins, but that stuff is gone. So I don't know what to say about that. My procrastination killed me when I got to Kappa, and I never completed all this stuff. So at some point, I may have to go through and look at what the items are required for certain things. Like for Violet Dye, for example, that's like for wings or headgear or something. Item quests. So I also have to go back through and figure it out. What other things do I have in there? So changes to official items. That got all that stuff there too. All gold removed items. Oh, god items removed, not gold items. Let's see what else do I have in there I can refer to. So this is like this is the wiki page for GRO. GRO 2.5 progress. So at the time that I had last updated this, we were 68% done with version 2.5. So items, weapons, content, that was 95% done. Pallets was all that was left. Apparently not, because the weapons, the weapons might be in the class folders, which is where they probably are, and I haven't added the custom classes back in, so that's probably why. Those aren't in the, I don't have them in the game, or they aren't working properly in the game or something. Yes, that was done. Client was pretty much done entirely. The server items, the database stuff was still being done, and beta testing was obviously really not done. Yeah, so we were pretty close to 2.5 being done, but then my procrastination killed me, and other things took over, and the rest is history. But let's see what else. We got quests here. This might also help. Okay, so this more has to do with what you get from. So this probably isn't necessarily too helpful, because we have the NPCs there, so that's not a problem. If I didn't have the NPCs, then oh, nice. I guess Ray went there and actually did do that stuff. Cool. So if we didn't have the NPCs, this would be more useful, I guess. So let's try to put it. Alright, let's see what else. Custom NPCs. to do, finish the page, of course. Custom monsters, to do, finish the page. Custom item quests. Okay, those are there. I don't think Ghost ever got around to finishing this. Actually, I think he did finish it, but he sent me the file that he finished it in, and I have no clue where the file is now, so I'll just have to go through and finish that up. Because, well, I think the wings are in a different... Are the wings in a different... No, they're not. They're in there. Or should be. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff to do on that. Then the item list, which is, again, to do, finish page. So I got a lot of work to do in there, but this thankfully I did this, or did most of this, so that's going to be very helpful. But yeah, so hopefully by the time I get back, I'll have at least all this done, if not all the rest, figure what all the rest of the stuff was and have that done. And we may actually be able to do some, open the server up for beta testing. That's my goal anyway, for when I get back, is to maybe have it ready for beta testing and enlist some beta testers to connect to it and check things out and get some feedback on the rates. I'm not going to use the same rates. I'm going to use lower rates now. I think the last time I had, yeah, base it was 7,000 times base and job. I'm going to do 75 or maybe 100 this time, just so it goes a little bit slower and it's a little closer to you know, the official experience, if you will, but being a little bit quicker. I'm also going to be like, instead of having a job changer or a job master or whatever, I'm going to put an NPC that's going to direct you how to complete the job events or the job quests, the official ones. So like, for example, it'll tell you to go to Islud for the swordman test, for example, and so on and so forth. That's partially why I was looking for a quest list, which I found over on Rate My Server, which I'm still amazed is still alive. I thought for sure Rate My Server would be dead by now, but it isn't. So let's see what else. Didn't see attributes 800. So the max stat level is 800, 400 and 120, which I think I'm not sure if I kept it there or changed it from there. I never changed it here. And 15 mil on the HPSC. What about the customizations? This is good. I can use this to change stuff in the server as well. So that's good to know. Quests. Oh, that's that same one. And woe. I'll need to figure out how to set the woe schedule again. But yeah, so we're getting there. GRO is going to rise from the dead eventually, and we're getting pretty close to the point of where we can start beta testing it. If you're interested in beta testing, leave me a comment or send me a message on YouTube, or you can leave a comment under the video once it's on YouTube if you're watching this live and wanted to do that, or if you're watching afterwards, just leave a comment and I'll add your name to the list and contact you when we're ready to start. But this has been an interesting experience getting back into private Ragnarok Online server development, and it's been a refreshing change of pace, let's put it that way. So thanks for checking out the stream. Again, it'll be a week and a couple days before I do another stream. That one will be Rest Tier and maybe going over what I managed to get done for GRO, and maybe also some KSP or something. So I will see you then.